Mary Ellen and I are playing bocce this summer with Special Olympics. And in case you don't know how bocce works, I'm going to explain it to you. So, there's a little bitty ball that's in here somewhere. Hold on, I gotta get all my little guys out. All right, so there's a little ball, and you roll it down a field. It's like 60 feet long. It's a pretty good ways, right? So you roll it down, and it goes somewhere. And then the goal is to, so there's the red team and the green team, right? So the goal is you roll your balls down, and then the other team, and whoever's ball is closest, they get Oh, wow. Hello. Woo. All right. So anyway, you need to know, it's not like you just switch back and forth between red team and green team and red team and green team. You have to know whose ball is closest, because then the other team has to try to like get in there and defend it, right? They're trying to get closest. The point is to get closest to the yellow ball. This is important. I know you didn't come to church and learn how to play bocce, but this is important. I promise. Because today's topic is self-awareness. So, one reason why this applies is that no matter how much you practice, you still won't always get it perfect. Right? And number 2, are you kidding me? Okay, there we go. I don't know. It's one of those days. Awesome. The other thing is that lack of awareness can get you in a lot of trouble. You see, when you roll the ball, remember it's down there a ways, 40 or 50 feet, you can't always tell from back here which ball is closest to the yellow ball, right? So, Ladora, which ball looks like it's closest to the yellow ball to you? The green one. Okay. And Nancy, to you, which one looks closest from where you're sitting? The same green. Oh, darn it. Okay, well. Yeah, so for you, it looks like the red one. So, okay, so that's pretty obvious. But for me, it's easy to tell which one is the closest. But from where you're sitting, depending on where you are, it's hard to tell. And if you're 40 or 50 feet down the way, you can't tell. And so if you know, when we're playing bocce, we know that way down there we can't tell, because we're like, really? I thought for sure you were closer. And then you run up and you look and you're like, oh, no, it's very obviously the different way than I thought it was. It might not even be one of the two that you thought was, maybe it might have been one of the other ones. But it's sort of like that in life too, right? When we know that it's a place we could mess up, then we can run up and check it out. But if we don't know, we don't know. See, I told you I was gonna fit in. So, we're doing this series called Living Originally. It's based on this book by Robert Brummett, and it's super awesome. And it's 10 spiritual practices to transform your life. So we're on number 1. Number 1 is self-awareness. And part of self-awareness is realizing that how we see things is not how everybody else sees things. And understanding that we're interpreting through our own filters, just like we were way down there to look at the balls instead of right up close. Now, the tricky thing is we have millions of points of data in our subconscious telling us how things work and what they mean and how we should react. And the practice of self-awareness is not about removing all those data points. Some of them are actually quite helpful, but it's about being aware that they are informing us, and what they're informing us may not be true. humans make meaning. It's what we do. It's like a built-in thing. We see something, we make a meaning out of it. And we can't stop it, and we're not trying to. But often we believe these things we're making up without realizing that we made it up. Have you ever done that? And found out later and went, oh, shoot. Like if you were walking down the street and you saw someone coming the other way on the same side of the street and they cross over to the other side, what does it mean? Anybody? What does it mean? Oh, well, see, that's a good story to make up, that they're going to an appointment on the other side of the street. What if you weren't in your best consciousness about that? You might think, oh, they think I smell bad. I did something and they're trying to avoid me. Or, a million other things. They don't want to be seen with me because I'm not cool enough. Whatever it might be. It could be that they didn't even see you, or that they're heading off to an appointment the other way. Well, we make meaning about things and we don't know. We're just making it up. So, in the book, Robert says, radical self-awareness means being aware of the primary experiences of seeing, hearing, feeling, thinking, and it means being aware of the meaning I give to those experiences. So we have sensory input, right? All these things are happening. We hear things, we see things, and it's knowing that there's a difference between the actual information that's coming in and what the subconscious is making it mean. They're not the same thing. I mean, if the light's red, you should stop. Yes. But that still is the meaning that we've ascribed to it over because we've conditioned that to be true, right? So when we're practicing noticing the difference, this is what all about. It's like noticing the difference between the input and how our mind interprets it. So I know some of you were visitors to our awesome state, but those of us who've lived here are pretty adept at seeing moose everywhere, right? Because moose running into your car is a bad thing, or into your person, both bad. So when we're driving from our house to the airport, which happens a lot because my husband works at the airport, there's a grassy area with trees behind it that you see moose there sometimes, right? But there's a stump in this grassy area. Now, a couple times I went, oh, there's a moose or a bear or something, right? Because there's this big stump in the middle of the grassy area. I've learned that it's not, okay? But, and I asked my husband if I could tell him, and he said yes. We go by this, we're talking 4 or 5 times a week at least, right? Because it's also how we get to Fred Meyer. And just the other day, he's like, oh man, it got me again. That darn stump still looks like a moose, even though he knows it's not a moose, right? And so it's just like an example of the tricks our brains play on us about what we see and the input and what it means. And even when we know it doesn't mean that, we still think it means that. We're so funny, aren't we? It's much easier if we can laugh about it instead of cry about it. So another important part of radical self-awareness is your body. And sometimes we like to just think our body is a skin that gets us where we want to go, right? And we might notice when our body's not doing what we want it to do, or behaving how we think it should, or experiencing discomfort or pain. But how often do we really just check in and notice where we're at and how we're feeling, and to notice the feel of the clothes on your skin, to notice the temperature, and do you feel different temperatures in different parts of your body? I don't know about you, but my feet get hot. So I notice that. But do you like take a moment to like really be in it? It's kind of disconcerting if it's not something you've done often, but it's really powerful when you do get into that practice. Maybe you notice a tightness in a muscle. When I stop and think for a moment, I realize, oh, I'm tensing up, or I'm sitting funny, or whatever. And as soon as you take that moment to be aware of your body, you go, oh, I could be doing something that would be more helpful for myself. And so we just notice, and this is part of awareness, is we notice, and then we notice our mind's reaction to our noticing, and we don't get into judgment, oh, I should be doing this, or why would I do that? We just return to the experience of being. So self-awareness is about noticing and just being an observer. What does the camera view see instead of all of the... So you can just look at all the commentary and just notice. Interesting. Body awareness is a great tool to ground you in the moment, and many have found it to have a calming effect. If you're starting to get anxious about something, notice the feeling of your breath moving in and out. What does the ground feel like under your feet? How does the pencil that you're holding feel in your fingers? It seems very simple, but it's just try it. It's neat. Just do it. So when we look in the mirror and we say, oh, that's me, and you might even go, oh, what did I do with I'm telling you, I have this whole gray spot that's coming in here. Anyway, whatever. It's just, so that's like the commentary, right, that I have. So even though we look in the mirror and we identify with our bodies being us, we really, really identify with our mind. Like I said, we think our body's kind of just the thing that gets us from here to there. So our mind is where the action's really happening, right? And where we can kind of get caught up in the difference between the truth of who I am, which is a spiritual being, and what is happening to me or around me. To have awareness is to become the observer of the activity of the mind, instead of being in the midst of the activity and not even realizing that that's what's going on. Then we're going to get a little wordy here. So our subconscious, we've all got one. It's got lots of stuff in it, like I said. The filter that tells us how to understand the world. We've all probably known people who have had lots of really positive experiences in their life, and they see the world through a very happy, shiny filter. And we've probably also known people who see the world through a very dark and grody filter. And I'm guessing we probably all feel somewhere in the middle. So we have these filters that we see the world through, and this tells us how, this informs us. And there's helpful things in there, like knowing red means to stop when you're driving along the road. But this subconscious filter probably also believes in things like fear and lack and otherness and not enoughness and a whole bunch of other really unhelpful things that are not the divine ideas or the divine truth of who you are. Your divine attributes, remember, like love and enthusiasm and wisdom, understanding, zeal. Remember all of those 12 powers? Great stuff. They're in there. Those are your divine ideas, but then we shoot them through subconscious filters of not so great stuff, and interesting things come out. They get distorted. They become less than optimal. And because most of us have not fully realized our Christ consciousness or our oneness with Spirit, it's okay. Most of us haven't. There is some part of us who wants or needs to feel a fulfillment with a thing. We need to fill up whatever's missing, right? With a thing or a relationship or an experience. That classic grass is always greener experience. Oh, I'm going to go over there. Or when I have the nicer house or the better car or whatever, then everything will be great, right? No, you all are no better than that. It won't fix that longing that you have for something better, because the longing for something better is to have a better connection, a better knowledge of the truth of who you are. You can't buy that. You can't relationship that. You just can't. It's not how it works. So you've heard that the antidote to the grass is greener is not next door, but the grass is greener where you water it, right? Or where you nurture it. So I want to nurture my knowledge of the truth of who I am. That's how you get greener grass, so to speak. So this is a lot of stuff. I know. Okay, we're almost done, I promise. We can go play bocce after. But it all falls under self-awareness. And by now you might be realizing why Robert suggests at the beginning of this book that really you should take at least 30 days to practice any one of these practices before you even move on to start working on the next one. Because it's a lot of stuff, right? Wow. But we're still going to do one a week because that's what we're going to do. But I'm not expecting anyone to be fully enlightened by Thanksgiving. If you are, that's super awesome. But that's really not how it works. So let's talk about practice. And while full awareness all the time is a really great idea, it's probably not going to happen. It's not really realistic because we still have things to do and places to be and things to do. So Robert suggests in the book that we just start with routine tasks. What are those things, your morning shower routine? Could you be more aware while you're washing your hair? Give it a moment. Feel, what does it feel like? Could you be more aware while you're washing the dishes or whatever your normal daily tasks are? I've created in my life times where I've said this is a mindful moment. Like when I used to live at Unity Village and I'd be walking from building to building. The tendency when you get out of your class is to open your phone and check your messages and da-da-da-da-da. I was like, no, when I'm walking from place to place and I'm outside and it's so beautiful, eyes up. I'm going to see what's going on. I mean, if I'm walking with somebody, obviously I'm paying attention to them, but otherwise I'm just paying attention to what's around me. Just a little rule to be more mindful and present. Another great practice is, have you ever been in the checkout line in the grocery store or at Costco? Oh, goodness. And you're like, oh, I should have gone in that other line. That one's going faster. Yeah. You're like, oh, maybe I should. Have you ever done that dance? And you're like, oh, wow. And so then you're like, oh, and that person is writing a check. Oh my gosh. Or whatever, they've got 3 returns and whatever it is, right? And you're like, anybody? Yeah. Okay. So this is a really great practice because all of us at some point end up at the grocery store or in line somewhere. Pick a line and just be. Just be. It's probably unlikely, unless some major thing is happening, that any line is really that much faster than any of the other lines. And you probably, that minute is not going to kill you. So just be. Notice if you're feeling uncomfortable, if you're feeling anxious. This is a great moment to study the lines on your hand and become aware of how it feels to touch your fingers together. You don't have to get caught up in that. All you got to do is keep scooching forward as it's your turn to scooch forward. It's great practice. And it's a great thing because we do it at least a couple times a week, probably, that we're at a store somewhere. And so if you would decide to take that on as one of your mindful moments, I encourage you to do that, because if we could all if everybody in the world would just decide not to be grouchy in the grocery store line, what more peace could we have? It's a little thing, but it's a big thing. So at the end of each chapter in the book, I promise we're almost done. He talks about the things, the perils of the path. That's what he calls it. I would call them the hiccups or the potholes. And these are great things to notice, because if you know this, they can help you not fall in those holes, right? And one, of course, is that you just forget to be aware, and you just go back to not noticing. That's pretty obvious. You go to an autopilot. And the other thing is, it's a little more, you can get entangled in how great you're doing, and it sort of becomes an ego trip about, look how mindful I'm being. Oh, yes, go me. I mean, it's nice to feel like I was really impressed. Like to be like grateful, but not get caught up in trying to achieve anything, because there's nothing to achieve. You're just being. And the third thing is doubt. Because just like you could be like, yes, I did it. The other thing is, well, it's not working. To which I ask, what does working mean? There's no, what do they call it in school? That's what things you're trying to get to. Those goals. Well, we'll go with goals. Yeah, that's not the word I was thinking, but anyway, yeah, we're not like trying to hit a particular thing in a particular time. We're just being, experiencing, trusting that we are becoming transformed in our own time and the own place, and all we have to do is show up. So, don't worry. So, as we practice self-awareness, remember that we are the observer. We are not the judge. Whatever's going on, we don't need to judge it. Just notice. And even as we experience our emotions and we plan for the future, or we walk in the park, we can also be aware of doing those things and seeing the bigger picture and the deeper truth. And in so doing, we are transforming our lives.